My name is Maria Fernandez Harris, and the ICE agent's fist caught me square in the right eye outside the Home Depot parking lot in Phoenix, Arizona. The punch came without warning. 1 second I was reaching for my car door, the next I was seeing stars exploding across my vision. I stumbled against my vehicle, tasting blood where my teeth had cut the inside of my cheek. I didn't go down. 22 years in the Army taught me how to stay upright when your brain is screaming for you to collapse. I pressed my palm against the car door, steadying myself, while Agent Ramos shook out his knuckles and moved to block my escape route. "Stay right there," he barked, his voice carrying that particular authority cops and federal agents use when they want compliance through intimidation. Hands where I can see them. It was 8 a.m. on a Saturday morning. The parking lot was half full, with contractors loading supplies and weekend DIYers hunting for paint samples. A landscaping crew sat in their truck 3 spots over, engines idling, watching. A man loading bags of concrete into a pickup slowed his movements, phone already in his hand. I raised my hands slowly, keeping them visible, my right eye already swelling shut. Blood dripped onto my Home Depot receipt. I'd just bought cabinet hardware for my kitchen renovation. Such a mundane errand, such an ordinary Saturday. What Agent Ramos didn't know, what he couldn't have known because I was wearing yoga pants and an Arizona State University t-shirt with my blonde hair in a messy ponytail, was that the woman he'd just punched wasn't some day laborer he could intimidate into a van. The stillness he mistook for submission was tactical assessment learned in combat zones from Baghdad to Kandahar. "Immigration and Customs Enforcement," Ramos announced, loud enough for the growing audience. "I need to see identification, now." I touched my eye carefully, felt the orbital bone throbbing but intact. Vision blurring but functional. I've had worse in Fallujah. "You just assaulted me," I said quietly, my voice steady despite the pain. "In front of witnesses. You made a suspicious movement toward your vehicle." I was opening my car door. After purchasing supplies consistent with illegal employment patterns. Cabinet hardware? I almost laughed. "That's your probable cause?" His partner, a younger agent who'd been hanging back, shifted uncomfortably. "Ramos, maybe we should—" "Shut up, Chen." Ramos kept his eyes on me. "Ma'am, produce identification or you're being detained for further questioning." The landscaping crew's driver had his phone up now, recording. The concrete guy was on his phone, probably calling 911. A woman loading plants into a minivan had stopped to stare, her hand over her mouth. I should have shown my military ID right then. Should have pulled out the credentials that would have ended this immediately. But something stopped me. The same thing that had stopped me 100 times before, when people made assumptions based on my last name, my mother's accent, my ability to speak Spanish without an Anglo stumble. "I'm a U.S. citizen," I said. "I don't have to prove that to you without reasonable suspicion of a crime." Refusing to cooperate with a federal agent is obstruction. Asserting my constitutional rights is not obstruction. And punching me because I reached for my car door is assault. His face flushed red. I'd seen that look before, on officers who couldn't handle subordinates questioning their authority, on soldiers who confused rank with respect, on men who thought physical dominance was the same as leadership. "Turn around," he ordered. "Hands behind your back." "No, that's an order. You're not my commanding officer. You're a federal agent who just committed assault and is now attempting unlawful detention." I kept my voice level, factual. "I know my rights. And unless you have actual probable cause, not racial profiling disguised as procedure, you have no legal basis to detain me." The younger agent, Chen, stepped forward. "Ma'am, if you just cooperate." "I am cooperating. I'm standing here, hands visible, being assaulted and illegally detained." I looked at him directly. "How many people have you stopped this morning? Let me guess. Anyone who looked Latino? Anyone shopping in the contractor section?" Chen's face told me I'd hit the mark. They'd been working the Home Depot parking lot, a known tactic in Phoenix. Stop people loading construction supplies, demand papers, sweep up anyone who couldn't immediately prove citizenship. Quota-driven enforcement disguised as public safety. Ramos grabbed my arm, his grip bruising. "That's it. You're coming with us." I didn't resist. Resistance would give him lethal cover. I let my weight go dead, forcing him to work for it, while keeping my voice loud enough for the growing crowd. "I'm being detained without probable cause. This is racial profiling. Someone call the ACLU." "We don't need probable cause for immigration enforcement." "Yes, you do. Border Patrol has authority within 100 miles of the border, but you still need reasonable suspicion. And shopping while Latina isn't reasonable suspicion." He tried to force my arms behind my back. I didn't fight, but I didn't help either, using passive resistance tactics I'd learned from military police training. Make them work for every inch. Document everything. That's when the third vehicle pulled up, a black ICE supervisor's SUV with tinted windows. The door opened, and a man in a button-down shirt with a badge on his belt stepped out, his expression already showing the irritation of someone whose Saturday morning was being ruined by his agent's incompetence. Supervisory Special Agent Marcus Webb took one look at the scene, me with a swelling black eye, Ramos trying to cuff me, Chen looking like he wanted to disappear, a dozen phones recording, and his jaw tightened visibly. "Ramos, what the hell is this?" But I'm getting ahead of myself. To understand why that moment changed everything, you need to understand how I ended up in that parking lot in the first place. My father was Anglo, a high school history teacher from Tucson named Robert Harris. My mother was Mexican, Maria Fernandez, who'd crossed legally with her family as a child and become a nurse at St. Joseph's Hospital. They met when my father came in with a broken arm from a hiking accident. He asked her out before the cast was dry. I was born blonde and green-eyed, taking after my father's Scottish ancestry, but carrying my mother's maiden name as my middle name, Maria Fernandez Harris. Growing up in Tucson in the 90s meant navigating two worlds, Anglo enough to avoid some scrutiny, but Latina enough to face assumptions the moment I spoke Spanish or mentioned my mother's family. My mother made sure I was bilingual, made sure I understood where I came from. She took me to Sonora to visit family, taught me to make tamales from scratch, filled our house with music and language that my father loved even if he couldn't always follow the rapid-fire conversations. But she also warned me, "Mija, you have your father's face, but you have my name. People will make assumptions. Be ready." I didn't understand what she meant until middle school, when a teacher saw Maria Fernandez Harris on the roster and automatically placed me in ESL. When I showed up, blonde, green-eyed, speaking perfect English, she actually argued with me. "But your name is Maria. Are you sure you don't need language support?" High school was worse. AP classes where guidance counselors suggested more realistic options. College applications where admissions officers seemed surprised by my academic record. The constant, exhausting navigation of being not what they expected. I joined Army ROTC at Arizona State, partly for the scholarship, partly for the structure, and partly because I was tired of explaining myself. In the military, rank mattered more than race. Performance mattered more than prejudice. The Army tested that theory immediately. I was good, top of my class in physical fitness, tactical training, leadership exercises. I spoke Spanish fluently, which the Army loved for intelligence work. I could navigate cultural contexts my Anglo peers couldn't. But I also faced assumptions. Officers who were surprised when I corrected their Spanish pronunciation. Soldiers who assumed I'd gotten my commission through affirmative action. The persistent undercurrent of "you're good for a Hispanic woman" that infected every evaluation. I proved myself anyway. Deployed to Iraq at 24 as a first lieutenant. Led convoys through hostile territory. Made decisions under fire, brought my people home. Made captain at 29, major at 34, lieutenant colonel at 38, and last year, At 40 years old, I pinned on full Colonel Eagles, 22 years of service, multiple combat deployments, a Bronze Star, a Purple Heart from an IED strike outside Mosul, commendations that filled a folder I kept in a safety deposit box because talking about them felt like bragging. I'd earned my place, proved myself 1,000 times over, became undeniably, unquestionably qualified. And yet there were still moments like this morning, when Agent Ramos saw a Latina woman in casual clothes loading supplies and assumed illegal. Never mind that I was shopping at 8 a.m. like any homeowner. Never mind that I'd driven here in a newish Toyota with Arizona plates and a military base parking sticker visible on the windshield. He saw my face, heard my last name, and made his assumptions, then enforced them with his fists. Now Supervisory Agent Webb stood 3 feet away, looking at his disaster of an operation with the expression of a man calculating career damage. "Sir, this subject was uncooperative," Ramos started. "This subject has a name," I interrupted, my voice cold. "And she was shopping for her kitchen renovation before your agent decided shopping while Latina was probable cause." Webb's eyes went to my swelling eye, then to the phones recording everything. "Ma'am, I apologize for any misunderstanding." "No misunderstanding. Your agent assaulted me, then attempted unlawful detention when I asserted my constitutional rights." "Agent Ramos, release her." Webb's voice carried command authority. "Now." Ramos let go of my arms, stepping back but not looking apologetic. Just angry that he'd been overruled. Webb pulled out his credentials. "I'm Supervisory Special Agent Marcus Webb. Can you tell me what happened here?" "Your agent saw me loading hardware into my car and decided that was suspicious. When I reached for my car door, he punched me in the face, then demanded my papers without probable cause." Webb's jaw tightened further. He looked at Ramos. "Is that accurate?" She made a threatening movement. I let the words hang. I was opening my car door. The landscaping crew's driver called out, "It's all on video, man. She didn't do nothing threatening." Webb looked at the phones, at the witnesses, at the evidence of his agents conducting exactly the kind of profiling operation that generated lawsuits and congressional hearings. "Man, if you could show me some identification, we can clear this up." "Why?" I kept my voice level. "So you can verify I'm legal and then apologize for the unconstitutional stop? So you can confirm I'm a citizen and pretend the assault didn't happen?" "No." I pulled out my wallet, but not for the reason they expected. "You want to see ID? Fine." I flipped it open to show my military dependence card, the one issued to family members, not my actual military ID. "My husband is deployed. I'm a military spouse. Is that American enough for you, or do I need to provide genealogical records proving my father's Scottish ancestry?" Webb's face went pale. Military spouse meant potential congressional inquiry. Military spouse meant base commanders getting involved. Military spouse meant this operation just became a political nightmare. "Ma'am, I sincerely apologize." "Your apology means nothing. Your agent assaulted me. Probable cause was look Latino while shopping, and you want to smooth it over with an apology?" Chen, the younger agent, finally spoke up. "Sir, this is the 6th stop this morning. All Hispanic, all in the contractor section. I tried to tell Ramos this was problematic." "Chen, shut up." "No, keep talking," Webb said, his voice deadly quiet. "How many stops?" Chen swallowed hard. 8, sir. In 2 hours. 0 warrants, 0 probable cause beyond appearance and location." Webb closed his eyes briefly. When he opened them, they were cold. "Ramos, you're done. Badge and weapon, now." "You can't." "I can and I am. You just assaulted a military spouse in a Home Depot parking lot while conducting racial profiling operations. You're suspended pending investigation." Ramos's face went purple. "This is bullshit. She's probably illegal anyway." That's when the 4th vehicle arrived. Not ICE, not police, a military vehicle. Specifically, a staff car with Fort Huachuca plates and a 1-star general's flag on the front. Everyone froze. The back door, opened, and Brigadier General Sarah McKnight stepped out, her one-star rank gleaming in the Arizona sun. She took in the scene with the kind of assessment that comes from 30 years of service, then walked directly to me. "Colonel Harris," she said calmly, "are you all right?" The parking lot went silent. Even the idling truck engines seemed to quiet. Ramos's face drained of all color. "Colonel?" I touched my swelling eye. "I'm fine, General. Just a misunderstanding about my immigration status." McKnight turned to Webb, and despite being several inches shorter than him, she somehow seemed to tower. "I'm Brigadier General Sarah McKnight, Fort Huachuca. Would someone like to explain why one of my brigade commanders is bleeding in a parking lot?" Webb looked like he wanted the asphalt to swallow him. "Ma'am, there's been a terrible mistake." "Mistake?" McKnight let the word hang. "Your agent punched a full colonel in the United States Army because she was shopping for home improvement supplies?" Chen actually sat down on the curb, his head in his hands. Ramos stood frozen, his career imploding in real time. "I need to see proper identification," Ramos said weakly, desperately. "Anyone can claim to be military." I pulled out my military ID, not the dependent card, my actual credentials. Colonel Maria Fernandez Harris, United States Army, 22 years of service, Brigade Commander, 111th Military Intelligence Brigade. Ramos stared at it like it might bite him. That has to be fake. You think a brigadier general showed up to back a fake ID?" McKnight's voice could have frozen fire. "You think Fort Huachuca's intelligence commander has time to participate in identity fraud?" The landscaping crew's driver actually started laughing. "Oh man, you messed up bad." General McKnight held out her hand to me. "Colonel, I think we're done here, unless you want to press charges." I looked at Ramos, watched him understand that his career was over, that the quota-driven profiling operation had finally caught someone who couldn't be bullied into silence, someone with rank, authority, and a brigadier general willing to go to war over it. "Administrative action," I said finally. "I want his badge. I want this operation shut down. I want a formal investigation into racial profiling practices in the Phoenix field office." "Consider it done." McKnight looked at Webb. "I'll be contacting your director and the Arizona congressional delegation, and probably some friends at the Department of Justice." Webb nodded numbly. "Understood, General." McKnight turned back to me. "Medical?" "I know you have, Colonel, but protocol says medical evaluation for any assault." She gestured to her vehicle. "I'll give you a ride to the base clinic." As we walked away, I heard Ramos still protesting weakly. How was I supposed to know she was a colonel? She was dressed like a human being running errands? McKnight called back without turning. Weird how that works. In the car, she handed me an ice pack from a cooler. Lucky I was in the area. Your husband called me when the landscaping crew's video hit the Fort Huachuca Facebook group. It's already online? Went viral in under 10 minutes. Army spouse groups picked it up, then veterans organizations. Then it jumped to civilian social media. She smiled grimly. By the time Ramos gets home, he'll be a meme. I pressed the ice to my eye. How did David even see it? Your neighbor's cousin works on base. Recognized you in the video. Posted it in the military spouses group with ICE agent attacks colonel's wife. Except you're not the wife. You're the colonel. That's going to be a fun correction. Oh, it gets better. The original post has been updated. Now it says, ICE agent attacks Army colonel who happened to be shopping. The comments are... She paused, grinning. Let's just say Ramos is going to need witness protection from angry military spouses. At the base clinic, they confirmed what I already knew. Orbital contusion, no fracture. Minor soft tissue damage. Ice, rest, ibuprofen. I'd be teaching Monday morning with a spectacular black eye. The video hit national news by evening. Army colonel racially profiled and assaulted by ICE agent in Phoenix. My face was clearly visible. Blonde hair, green eyes, bleeding eye. Standing calmly while Ramos tried to cuff me. The optics were devastating for ICE, not just because they'd assaulted a colonel, but because I didn't look like what people expected when they heard Maria Fernandez Harris. The cognitive dissonance of seeing a blonde, green-eyed woman being profiled as illegal forced uncomfortable conversations about what illegal really meant to agents like Ramos. Turned out it meant looked Hispanic, regardless of actual appearance. The Phoenix field office conducted an investigation, found exactly what Chen had reported: systematic racial profiling in contractor-heavy locations. 8 stops that morning, all Hispanic surnames or appearance. 0 actual immigration violations found. Ramos was terminated. Webb was reassigned. Chen, who tried to object, received commendation for standing up to his superior. But the real karma came 2 weeks later, when the Department of Justice announced a formal civil rights investigation into ICE operations in Arizona. My case was the catalyst, but they found hundreds more, thousands actually. A pattern of profiling so systematic it couldn't be dismissed as individual bad actors. I testified before Congress, sat in a hearing room, and told my story to representatives who'd spent years denying that profiling existed. Showed them my military ID next to my bruised eye photo. Asked them how many years of service I'd need before I was American enough not to be punched in parking lots. Some representatives apologized. Some made excuses. Some insisted Ramos was an isolated case. But the video didn't lie, and neither did the hundreds of similar stories that came forward after mine. Changes came slowly. Revised training protocols, stricter oversight, body cameras required for field operations. Not enough, but something. Ramos tried to sue me for defamation, claimed I'd ruined his career by playing the race card. His lawyer dropped the case after about 5 minutes of reviewing the evidence, specifically the dozen videos showing him punching me for the crime of reaching for my car door. Last I heard, he was working mall security in Scottsdale, still bitter, still convinced he'd done nothing wrong. My kitchen renovation finished 3 months later. Every time I look at those cabinet handles, the ones I'd bought the morning Ramos punched me, I think about the cost. Not the money, the cost of proving I belonged, of having to be a colonel before I could be a citizen, of needing a brigadier general's intervention to exercise basic constitutional rights. My name is Maria Fernandez Harris. I'm a colonel in the United States Army with 22 years of service, and I learned that belonging isn't guaranteed by birth, earned through service, or protected by rank. It's something you fight for every single day, in parking lots and hearing rooms and viral videos that force people to confront their assumptions about who looks American. They'll always make assumptions based on your name, your face, your mother's accent. They'll always think authority gives them permission to demand proof of your humanity. Right up until the moment a brigadier general shows up and asks why they're bleeding a full colonel in a Home Depot parking lot. And sometimes that moment goes viral enough to change policy. Not perfectly, not completely, but enough that the next Maria Fernandez Harris might shop for cabinet hardware without getting punched. That's not victory, but it's something. And in America, sometimes something is all you get.